Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala ashrafil anbiyin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man ittaba bi ihsani ila yawmiddin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And I want to welcome everyone to another presentation from El Manada Islamic Learning Center. Today, I'd like to welcome one of the up-and-coming imams from the Imam W.D. Muhammad community, Imam Tariq Al-Amin. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa
Wa alaikum
barakatuh.
salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, it's nice to finally get a chance to really sit down
Yes.
with you and to talk and kind of unpack your story. I've heard a lot about you on the Houston scene. A lot of people have been talking about this young, dynamic guy who went from darkness to light,
That's right.
so to say.
That's right.
Alhamdulillah. So what I would like to do is take a few minutes and just kind of unpack your story. Give us a brief synopsis of what your life was like before you having to actually have your run-in with the penal institution.
Okay, well, alhamdulillah. First, let's say Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillahi Kareem Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah. Man, this was my life prior to Islam was a life out here on the streets. And because of the negligence and the choices that I made as a young man at 18 years old, found myself on my way to prison. Prior to that, several things had happened in my life that were, I guess you could say, traumatic events that triggered my participation in the things that I was involved in the streets. But nevertheless, it led me to a 10-year prison sentence in 1994. And I was released in 2004. But in that prison system, approximately 7 years into my sentence, I had an epiphany. Up until that point, I was doing everything that a criminal-minded person does in prison, with no intentions on improving my life. None. But at this particular juncture in my time, I remember having an epiphany one day in the cell after taking a brief nap. And this epiphany was the fact that I realized for the first time in my life that I was in a prison cell. Now, some people might find that's a very strange thing. That
After
7 years, okay, so you didn't know. I was having so much fun in that environment with that mindset that I never realized that I was in a state of peril. I was in a state of really severe condition that I was finding everything to celebrate about. But this particular day, it was a day that we came in from picking cotton in the fields. We were picking cotton in this unit. It was a Ferguson unit, the Ferguson unit in Midway, Texas.
Now, this is in the 2000s?
Yes, this is in 2000, exactly.
Okay.
Actually, 2001. This is in 2001. And I remember coming in, going to my cell. We were going back out for a second half. And I took a brief nap. Didn't even realize I was asleep. And when I woke up from this brief nap, my five senses, I became aware in my five senses of the place that I was in for the first time.
Wow.
And it dawned on me that I was in a prison cell and that everything about the prison was distasteful to me. The sound, the smell, even the way that I was presenting myself. And this came to me in an instance without me having any time to think about what I was doing consciously.
Prior to that, you didn't feel that way?
No, absolutely.
Okay.
I was so engaged in the environment that I had no clue as to that I was incarcerated and I was behind bars.
Okay.
And my mindset it was like, this is what you do as a person operating in this criminal element or this criminal atmosphere. This is what you do, and this is acceptable. So up until that point of the epiphany in the cell, I became aware of my surroundings for the first time, and I was locked up. And I remember summoning, beating on the wall, and my best friend, who was, by the way, who I grew up with, was in the cell next to me.
Wow.
and I said to him that we were in jail. And he said, man, we've been here 7 years. What's wrong with you? You know, you tripping. Something wrong with you? So, but he found it really amazing that and he knew I was serious because the way that I expressed it to him, he knew that something was changing with me. And from that point on, this was not religion per se that influenced this change in me. This was something more innate and natural that was happening with me.
Okay.
And my state of consciousness became born to me. It became clear to me that I was bigger than the situation that I was accepting for my life.
That fitra.
That fitra. As a result of that day, things instantly started to change for me. You know, one thing about when we talk about being a believer, believer is both conscious and unconscious. You can be a believer in both states.
Absolutely.
But the conscious believer is the better of the believer. The one who is consciously moving towards pleasure and pleasing his Lord, right? So at this state, I was considered an unconscious believer, meaning that I was adhering and believing in what I was cautioning and conforming to within myself.
Okay.
Didn't know where it was coming from. Nobody there was to teach me, oh, you're going through X, Y, and Z. Oh, this is what's happening. But I later came to understand that I was responding to something that God had put in me.
So now at that point, you had not yet been introduced formally to Islam.
No, not at all. I knew about Islam, but I had no connection that this was what was happening to me, was what I would later years would find out what that was something mentioned or in the Quran that would happen with the human being.
Okay.
When Allah says in Surah Al-Shams, Surah 91 of the Quran, وَالشَّمْسِ وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَاهَا, by the soul and the proportion and order that we have given to it, right? فَأَلْحَمَهَا الْفُجُرَهَا وَالتَّقْوَاهَا, that we have enlightened it. فَأَلْحَمَهَا, we have enlightened it with a specific type of intelligence, right? The soul, this is not your conscious mind. Allah is saying He has enlightened the soul and has given it the conscious state to know what is fujura and what is taqwa, meaning what is considered to be the dawning of your learning in your ignorant state, but also to be God conscious. And the next verse says, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَاهَا, he who purifies that condition of his soul will be successful. وَخَدَ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَاهَا, and he who neglects it will find himself in peril. So I didn't know that this was what was happening to me until years later. So upon this transition that I was having, this epiphany, my life changed significantly within a year's time. Meaning that my whole position within the prison element started to change. The doors started to open up for me that I couldn't see. Okay. Things started happening that I couldn't explain, nor could my prison mates. They was like, I don't know what's going on with you, but
you must be telling.
You telling them, because I got promoted, and that was like unheard of, being in the environment that I was in the group that I ran with. You know, we didn't look for that. We looked to be in the hardcore part of the prison or to be recognized as such. But I got promoted and I got moved and I got a job, you know, and you know, it changed. It made me start to see that something was working with me, and I need to keep following this trajectory, whatever it is. And as a result, 6 to 8 months later, I got moved from the prison cell to the outside compound, and then to the outside the gate compound, until I eventually got shipped. Okay. When I got shipped off of this particular unit, I landed on a unit called Jester 3 in Richmond, Texas. And it was on that unit where I was playing basketball outside on the basketball court, and I heard some brothers reading the Quran in Arabic. Now, I didn't know what they were reading, but it made me stop in mid-play, ask somebody to come and take my nicks, take my spot, because I had to go sit with these brothers and see what was that they were reading. They were reciting just that beautifully. So when I went to the table to visit, and I asked them, what is that y'all reading? A brother named Qaid, who became one of my first teachers, he said, this is the Quran, young brother. We read it in the Arabic, in the language of the Quran revealed. And that was my invitation to come to Ta'aleem, to come and start to, and I took the invitation, and as I went to Ta'aleem, they were teaching a series on the life of Muhammad the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, prayers and peace be upon him. And for the first time in my life, I saw, or I began to believe that there was a model of leadership for me outside of what I had been traditionally given in Christianity. There was a model that I could follow, not only follow, because I related to him.
Absolutely.
So the way that they gave the history of his life, subhanallah,
Relevant.
it was relevant.
Yes.
And I saw his condition like mine was.
In your own life.
And I saw a way out through following the example that he had given in the thing. So I went back for a couple of more sessions, and then I decided that I was going to become a Muslim.
MashaAllah. Now,
Yeah.
at that time, did you let anybody in your family know, anybody from the outside world? Did the people on the inside, did they start to see those changes that were coming, that usually come when people make that change from, non-Muslim to Muslim?
Yes.
Did the people
Yes.
inside of the system who you were close to, who you communicated with on a daily basis, did they see this coming? Or were they blindsided?
On this particular unit, since I was new there,
Okay.
not many people really knew me.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
but this is something that became, subhanallah. Every time I tell this story, I get chills because I wasn't able to narrate this
Okay.
when it was happening.
Uh-huh.
This became clear to me about 3 or 4 years after I had gotten out.
Okay.
And even after that, it became even more clear five or 6 years later. And even now today that I'm telling it, it becomes even more clear as to what was happening and how it was happening. And I can open the Quran and see in Revelation how Allah was moving even the prophets, peace be upon all of the prophets, how he was moving in their lives without them even knowing that he was opening up doors for them. So my mother was the first person when I decided that I was going to become a Muslim.
Okay.
She came to visit me, and I told her, I said, I think I'm going to accept Islam and become a Muslim. And my mother said to me, she said, well, I know whatever you're going to be a good one. Because whatever you get involved in, you committed to it.
MashaAllah.
And she said, son, I don't care what it is. If it's going to make you a better man. And that was the confirmation that I needed. I needed that from her.
From your mother.
Even if she wouldn't have supported it, I still would have moved on it.
Okay.
But
you just needed to hear
I needed to
her
hear that from her
response.
because her response and my sister's response were the only ones that mattered.
Wow.
My sister, my mother it's just me and my sister, my baby sister.
Okay.
So my mother's response was confirmation for me.
And how was your sister's response?
And my sister was like, okay, she didn't know what, she just asked questions. Well, what is a Muslim? What is Islam? And okay, she was not rejecting it. And I think it's because my sister trusted decisions that I always made. I was always a leader in her eyes. She trusted it.
Okay.
She trusted it. Okay, my brother says he's going to be a Muslim.
Okay.
My brother's a Muslim. It's kind of like the instance in the life of the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when Hamza comes to the defense of the Prophet and say, "I say what Muhammad said."
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I don't know I don't know what about it, but I say
what he said.
So that's how my sister made me feel.
Allahu Akbar. MashaAllah. That's great. That's great. So now you've taken your shahada.
Mm-hmm.
What steps do you take in your life after that? Do you make a plan? Do you have a blueprint for your life? Because at this time, as you said, I think you're at the 7-year mark of a 10-year.
Right.
Okay. So at that point, what do you start to do different in your daily in your daily routine in prison to prepare you for the next stage of your life, freedom?
The first thing happened. I didn't realize it at the time, but I took Shahada about 5-6 months before 9/11.
Okay.
Pardon me. I took Shahada 6 months after 9/11.
Okay. Okay.
So the Muslims wasn't very popular
at that time. Absolutely.
Because that's one of the things that I think my sister was like, the Muslims, right now, they say the Muslims this and that.
They
but
beat up.
That never discouraged me because I took Shahada in April the 21st.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe I was at the 8-year mark during my time.
Okay.
So I knew that taking the Shahada for me meant several things. One, it meant I knew I had to ground myself to something that I believed in because I'm transitioning from gang life.
Absolutely.
And gang life, when you transition from the gang life, you quit the gang, don't mean the gang quit you.
Absolutely.
So I knew that I was getting near to getting out.
Uh-huh.
And getting out, meaning you still have issues out there.
Absolutely.
So I knew I had to ground myself to something that was going to be able to hold me, give me reason, give me, I had to have something that was stable, that would stabilize my life. So that was one thing. Another thing was the plan that I did make at that point. I knew I had to become, I wanted to become a learned Muslim.
Okay.
I didn't want to be a Muslim just by ritual or just by identification. I wanted to learn. So right away, I literally began to teach myself the Arabic alphabets with the assistance of the brother Qaid. But he said that I was moving too fast.
SubhanAllah.
And I was, within a week and a half, I had taught myself all 28 alphabets.
Allahu Akbar.
And I was trying to learn how to pronounce them. So I was on brother's nerves, right? I was, getting every book. And we had this tape recorder and access to cassette tapes. And nobody listened to the tapes. I said, well, I would just get the tape recorder and go sit down in the multi-purpose room by myself and just listen to recitations. Didn't know what they were saying. I just wanted to listen. And then I was doing my Arabic. So at that point, I knew that I wanted to become learned. I wanted to become, didn't want to just become a Muslim who practiced and identified as a Muslim. I knew that was very important for me to grow and develop. Now, did I ever think that I wanted to be in a leadership position? No. I just wanted to be learned. And if somebody, because I was getting ready for my family.
Okay.
I knew it was going to be a lot of questions.
Absolutely.
So you got to be able to answer these questions.
Absolutely.
Now, I have an uncle who was the first Muslim in my family. He accepted Islam, I want to say, in 1974 or 75.
Okay.
Okay, so he came to the Nation of Islam.
Okay.
And then he transitioned with Imam Warithuddin Muhammad.
Alhamdulillah.
So when I wrote him, after I told my mother, I wrote him and told him that I had accepted Islam. The first book that he sent me a book. I told him I was so impressed with the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He sent me a book. He sent me The Life of the Prophet by Dr. Muhammad Haikam.
Iowa. Okay.
Now, this is a scholarly written book. I wouldn't suggest this book to new Muslims.
Right.
But he sent this book to me. Now, being that I was a book reader, and the book was about, this book is like 900, and I would say it was about 500 pages.
It's about 500.
It's a nice.
Yeah, it's a nice size.
I became so entranced in that book from the beginning to the end because it was giving me the picture of the Prophet, peace be upon him, that I needed to see.
It really created a great framework.
The context in which that book is revealed. So that gave me more assurance and I had more information now. And I was arming myself during this time with Islamic knowledge at that point. Now, mind you, the group of brothers, alhamdulillah, the group of brothers that I came in contact with on that unit, phenomenal.
Now, which unit was that?
This was Just 3 in Richmond, Texas.
Okay.
Just so happened, after I took Shahada and was there, getting into the habit of meeting with the brothers, and these are very productive brothers. They had something going on almost every 60 days. They had a program going on within the unit where they were inviting other people to learn about Islam. So they were very productive. It was a lot of activity. There was a brother that came on the unit who I knew from growing up in Galveston and was in the opposite gang from me, who came on the unit. And when he came on the unit and saw me, we met, and I think it was going to a Talim, and he had some very stern advice for me. Some of the best advice that I've ever received in my life from a Muslim. Okay. And he was coming back. Now I knew he had got out, and I was like, "What, you back?" Because we all got rounded up in the early '90s together. So now he's coming back, and I'm surprised to see that he a Muslim. Right. And he said, Akhi, I've been out there with Islam, brother. I've been out there with it. And he said, and at this time I had just gotten word that I was being paroled. Okay. I had gotten my parole. Parole. So I was going to be leaving soon. Okay. And he told me, brother, whatever you do, don't stop praying. Whatever you do. He said, that's what brought me back, brother. Wow. So he gave me that advice, and he was so sincere in giving me that advice. And, I always, even to this day, brother Rafiq, I always tell him, and I say, man, you don't realize how that helped. How important. That I took it because he was serious. Yeah. Whatever you do, brother, don't stop praying.
Right.
I'm telling you.
This is our
I'm
connection.
back.
Yeah.
Exactly.
This is our connection.
So alhamdulillah, I end up getting parole some months later, going to a behavior modification program for 9 months.
Okay.
And it was at that program that I was able to, because of how that program was set up, that's when my leadership skills from what I gained from these brothers
Okay.
that's the first time I knew I had to engage them outside of a criminal lifestyle.
Yeah. Environment.
Because this environment involved you being in a pod with 42 men.
Okay.
And the design of this particular program was you all are together, and it's a program that bids you to hold your brothers or the people in accountable. It's an accountability program.
Yeah.
So you had to write people up
Okay.
when they made small mistakes. So there was rules to govern this pod that we were in.
Okay.
And you had a structure board. So right away, I said, I need to be the coordinator. I need to be at the top. I'm saying this to myself.
Right.
Now, this is me saying this to me. I didn't say this to anybody else. And as we start to operate as they call it a family, right? If the family was not upholding their responsibilities to each other, the counselors who would come in and would constantly evaluate us, they would know
if you weren't
doing it.
Yeah.
So I saw the repercussions
of not
holding each other accountable.
Right.
They would put us on what's called LOP, loss of privileges.
Wow.
So they would take the TV. They would take. So now they would make life hard for us.
It became serious.
So now I said I need to be the coordinator. So what happens was the coordinator ended up making parole. So whenever there's a position open on the coordinator board, the family have to vote on who they want to decide to be. Now, normally the person don't get that position until they come through the ranks. You become an expediter, system coordinator,
then coordinator.
So I threw my name in the hat because every time I spoke in the family or the group meetings, I spoke with intelligence and I spoke with a rational perspective. So I threw my name in the hat and they said, we vote for him to be the coordinator. As a result of such, that showed me where Islam could lead people. Where I could lead people with Islam without them necessarily being Muslims.
Okay.
Because the rational perspective. So these are just some of the early experiences I've had with Islam in that environment that I didn't even know was preparing me for what I was about to inherit or come into once I was released.
Now, immediately when you were released, you're a new Muslim and you're out here in these streets. Streets where you came from, streets where you know, streets where you still may even have connections.
Right.
What kept you away? What was the foundation that kept you away, or the thing that kept you away from going back? Because recidification in this day and age is very high.
Yes.
So people will come out, even though that they're Muslims, and instead of being, holding on to that rope of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they would start to re-engage and reintroduce themselves back into the same lifestyle that they did. What was that factor that kept you away from doing that? And because it's easy.
Yes.
It's easy.
One of the things I've learned about brothers, and I can say this because it's difficult for somebody to try to critique something that they haven't experienced. To say, I don't understand why these brothers keep going back. And I learned something. When I was released from the Walls unit in Huntsville, I didn't leave Islam. Okay. I didn't get out saying, man, I need to catch up. I've been locked up 10 years. No, I was engaged, and my focus was on pleasing Allah. That was my focus, on being the best of what I have come into. So the faith of a person has to really be sincere coming out. And as a result of the faith being sincere, I did what all the brothers suggested that I do when you get out. Brother, attach yourself to a masjid like an alaq.
SubhanAllah.
Attach yourself to a masjid like even, brother, they may not return a greeting to you.
Yes.
The welcoming may be cold, but you ain't there for them. And that's exactly what I did. And when I did, I went to, the first masjid I went to in Galveston, I met my longtime childhood coach and mentor who had accepted Islam with my uncle in the 70s.
Now is that Jeeb? Coach
Jeeb.
Jib,
We call him
okay.
Jamal Shabazz.
Okay.
Jamal Jihad Shabazz. And Jamal,
He mentored you coming up.
yes. Now he was our baseball coach. He was the first Muslim that we knew. Now my uncle was a Muslim, but my uncle wasn't really around.
Okay.
So I met Jamal as a baseball coach and a basketball coach with the Boys and Girls Club and a football coach with the local football team.
Right.
So his presence was always different, and he was one of the most encouraging mentors that I've ever seen in my life. So here I come home from prison. I go to the masjid, and when he sees me, because he's the mu'adhin at the masjid, right? He sees me, he says, "I've been waiting on you."
Allahu Akbar.
I thought he was saying he was waiting on me to come.
Right.
He said, "No, I heard about you, and I've been waiting on you to come join me." This is not only that. His aspiration was one of those young boys that I had mentored for them 30-something years in my community would find Islam. He coached us. He would. That's why I say, how could we not know what a Muslim is if you knew Jib?
Yeah.
If you knew Jib, you knew what a Muslim was.
Absolutely.
Because the way he carried himself in every way. He never coached me directly. I played on the teams that played him.
Okay.
But he would coach me from the pitcher's mound. Say, little brother, look, time out, now. He'll come up there and say, look, grab you trying to throw that knuckleball.
Yeah.
Grab it like this.
Right.
He's not even my coach.
Yeah, well,
my coach on the sideline
What's happening?
was like, because I was on one of the worst teams. He was on one of the best. He coached one of the best teams in the league.
Yeah.
So, but he saw it in me because
Uh-huh.
I had a spirit. I just never backed down. And he said, I always liked that killer attitude you had.
MashaAllah.
You was on the worst team in the league, but you wasn't no quitter.
Right.
So he would tell me this, right? So knowing him and seeing him at the masjid, he said, I've been waiting on you.
SubhanAllah.
And that right there just like sent a shock through my body and let me know that, I'm doing the right thing. That was more confirmation. Allah just kept showing me confirmation.
Now,
confirmation,
did that discipline
Mm-hmm.
that you had inside the walls,
Yes.
did it follow you
Absolutely.
outside the walls?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I attached myself
to learning the Arabic letters like you did?
I never stopped.
Okay.
I
MashaAllah.
never stopped. Even I would be on the job with my little pocket Quran, and I embraced my uniqueness. I always knew I was different.
Okay.
My mother would tell me, "You different. You're different." It is a story I could tell you about my grandmother when she told me in the church.
Please.
I had got baptized when I was like 8 years old.
Okay.
And my family is a long traditional history of preachers, and so we were traditionally a part of this church in Galveston called Jerusalem Baptist Church. So I'm 8 or 9. Now my grandmother had to tell me the story later, but I was now qualified to take what's called the Lord's Supper or the Last Supper, right? Like
First
communion, right?
Yeah.
So they're passing around the tray, and you get the cracker, and they pass around the drink, which represents the body of Christ and the blood, right? So my grandmother, everybody, they consume, take the sacrament, but I'm holding mine.
Right.
And my grandmother looking at me, and she said, "What's wrong?" I said, "Grandma, I don't want to drink no man's blood in his body." That was my rational mind
Absolutely.
responding to this ritual at that time.
SubhanAllah.
And she told me after I got out, I didn't know about this story until after I got out, and my grandma said, "I knew you was gonna be different. I remember one time you embarrassed me in the church."
Wow.
So these are, Imam Muhammad, he asked a question once. He said to the listening audience, he said, "Where were you 5,000 years ago?" And it got quiet.
Silent.
He said, "I'll tell you where you were. You were on your way here."
SubhanAllah.
And I had been on my way there. Even before I came out of my mother's womb, Allah was preparing me for where I was at, where I'm at today. So that's how I started seeing my life from the period I came home. So keeping the discipline, going to the masjid, that was something and it was right around Eid time. So I got my first Eid.
Wow.
I enjoyed the Eid. And just being in the company of the Muslims, for what people said and discouragingly, like, "Oh man, the brothers ain't welcoming," that didn't bother me. Matter of fact, I had so many great experiences that it didn't bother me. So that was an issue. I mean, that was one of the things that I found really supporting my Islam coming home. Okay.
So now, then after going to coming out and starting to work, then you start to get. How did you become affiliated with becoming? How did you become an imam? What was your out here? What was your process? The roadmap to you becoming an imam out here?
Okay, so this is an experience I'm sure, and if there is somebody else in America that's had this experience, I'd love to meet them.
So
Because this is
email them.
I was a regular attendee of a masjid that we had here in where I stayed in Texas City. That was an old tire shop.
Okay.
And I went there. There was a brother from Sierra Leone, Brother Omar. May Allah be pleased with him. His brother's a good brother. I used to go there and pray Fajr and Isha with him, and sometimes in the other prayers if I was available.
Okay.
But Fajr and Isha, I always kept it. If I wasn't working, I was there.
MashaAllah.
So I noticed that from my training in the prison, there wasn't no classes going on. Wasn't nothing going on. I'm
No
like,
learning.
I'm used to moving because the brothers that trained me were moving. And I started teaching the little Arabic that I knew.
Okay.
I said, I'll do that on Sundays. And he was like, okay, that's fine. And I started teaching the brothers who wanted to learn, and they would come. I would teach them the alphabets. I would teach them how to put so that was a beneficial class for the people in the community.
MashaAllah.
As a result of me just being consistent and coming there, unbeknownst to me, I was working night shift on a contract in the plant. I remember coming in for Fajr that morning from the plant. I got off at like 5 and I came to the masjid, and the plant was not even 5 minutes away. Okay. So I go there for Fajr, and Brother Omar, I open the door and he's sitting in the masjid waiting on me. He's sitting down, right? And he's smiling. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum assalam. He stand up and he kissed me.
Okay.
On both cheeks.
Okay.
He said, congratulations. You've been selected as the new imam. This is how I came into the imam role. And I was like, what? He said, we had a meeting. We anonymously chose you. We see your work ethic. Now, at this time, I had been associated with this masjid for almost a year now.
Okay.
Almost a year.
Consistently.
Okay. There. Participating and involved in the activities and everything. So this was the consensus of the community.
Okay.
All right. So
now, did you have that communal spirit, that communal work?
Yes.
Was that there at that time, or did that come?
I was waiting on an opportunity to do it. Now I'm the imam, so now I said this is an opportunity for me to go out and show them how to go into the neighborhood and teach Islam to the people who can. So I started putting together what we did in the prison. I just took these programs.
The same blueprint. And, applied it out.
And we started doing, and we had some very successful programs. But before that, I remember after he told me this, I went home and I told my wife at the time, I was like, I'm not ready for this. This is not what I'm ready. And she said, well, you can't turn away from something Allah called you to do.
I mean,
that she really
solidified that decision.
Yes. Yeah. Because I was like, I'm not ready for that. I'm not ready for that. Not that I wasn't ready to be a leader. I was always a leader.
Okay.
But I didn't think that imam that time. I'm like, I'm not trained.
That's more responsibility.
Exactly. And then I'm not,
moral responsibility.
It was a real challenge.
Yes.
But when she assured me, that made things a lot easier for me. So I told them that, look, I need some training. I was upfront about that. So they said, we're going to have a sheikh come from Kuwait who's going to, the sheikh never came, right?
Okay.
But as Allah would have it, I ended up meeting a brother, Munir Hamdani, rahimullahi alayhi. May Allah be pleased with this brother.
Ameen.
He saw me, he heard me speak a couple of times, and he came up to me after one time and he said, brother, have you ever heard of Imam W.D. Muhammad? I said, no, sir. I said, I've heard of him, but the brothers here don't really, they haven't really pointed me in his direction. He said, brother, you are a very good speaker, but if you want to be really, really good and be able to reach your people, you need to study Imam Muhammad. He said that the language that Imam Muhammad has, the progress that he has made with Islam in America, particularly for African Americans, he said, you need to study that logic. Absolutely. He said, you perhaps, because he heard me talk about my experience from the streets and being connected with the projects and stuff like that. My growth. So he said, if you want to go back and get them people,
right,
you need this language. And I heard him, but I, kept doing what I was doing. And another brother brought me a book after Jum'ah one Friday. And he's no longer with us. May Allah forgive him his sin and grant him paradise. His name is Rashid Hamid. I'll never forget these brothers. They are very instrumental in helping me develop.
Okay.
And he came to me in an indirect way.
Right.
But they were very instrumental. So Rashid Hamid comes to me with this book. And I'm a book reader now. Mm-hmm. The book was taped up. It had rubber bands on it. So when I seen it, I knew it was a good book. Because in prison, when somebody bring you a book, like, it's a good book.
It's a good book.
So he said, brother, read this book. And I really think you'll see what you really learn a lot from this book. And the book was Religion on the Line. And the book was Imam Muhammad having an interfaith dialogue with Christian leaders of other faiths, right? The faith-based groups. And I read that book in 1.5 days. 1.5 days. I couldn't put it down. I started reading it at night. My wife said, I stayed up all night to go to work the next morning. My wife said, you still reading that book? I said, I can't put it down.
Wow.
And I took the book to work and finished it at work. And when I read that book, I said, I got to go find some students of Imam Muhammad. That led to me meeting Imam Wazir Ali, who was a prominent student of Imam Qasim Ahmed, rahimullahi alayhi. May Allah be pleased with him as well, grant him paradise.
Ameen.
I sought him out, and I found him teaching in projects in Houston in Kelly Courts. And he was teaching, and these are the notorious projects that one time.
Absolutely.
And when they said go to Kelly Courts, I was like, "You sure?" Like, I don't know nobody over there. They was like, "No, it's not like that no more."
Should I take my gun?
I was so shocked to pull up at Kelly Courts to see Imam Wazir teaching on the playground, and they had the tenants assembled in chairs on the courtyard, listening. And the way that he was teaching Islam, I say that's what I. So.
Grassroots type of approach.
Grassroots. Needless to say, I knew where my training had to come from.
Yeah.
I went back to the masjid. I did the Jum'ah that Friday, and I announced to the community that I loved them, but I needed to go get trained. And I was renouncing, I was going to be stepping down
as the imam
because I feel like I'm not qualified enough. And I said, I'm not trying to take anybody with me, but if anybody wants to come, this is where I'll be going, X, Y, and Z. And I was no bad blood whatsoever.
Absolutely.
So I connected myself to Imam Wazir, and for the better part of 14 years, I drove from Texas City to Houston, 35 miles.
Oh my God. That's commitment, brother.
4 times a week in the first 2 or 3 years, 4 times a week. For Friday, Jumu'ah, Sunday, I was there all day. Because Imam Wazir immediately, when I came there, he was like, I didn't bring you here to sit on the floor. So your training begins now.
Right.
So right away, I was in the position. He put me, I was teaching the 7 o'clock ta'aleem.
Wow.
And the Arabic class on weekends. And the dawah program that we did every Sunday. We would have a dawah program every Sunday afternoon with our public address. So every Friday, every Sunday, on Wednesdays, and then sometimes I would come up there just to do maintenance, like to come cut the grass.
Right.
My commitment to the masjid,
SubhanAllah.
I was trained with this work ethic from prison, and now I was using it to
just transferred it out.
Transferred, exactly. So that relationship with Imam Wazir grew. Imam Wazir trained me in the formal position of an imam, from how to lead the people in this community. Now, it's people say training. Where did you go? You have hijazah? No, didn't have that.
Right.
We always saw ourselves as organic imams, and the proof of our work was in the people that we served.
Yes.
So when you look back at the people that we served, or was serving at that time, the people were benefiting from what knowledge we had. Now, don't get it wrong. As imam, I never stopped studying.
Yes.
I never stopped reading fiqh books. I never stopped reading hadith books. I never stopped. I always continued studying. And then I started growing in the language of Imam W. Muhammad, which really enhanced me in conceptual knowledge of the Quran and conceptual knowledge of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So now,
practical.
I'm able to
application
became a thing that people really saw the benefit of how we were communicating Islam. In that community versus other communities.
Because it's different.
It is different.
It's different how you apply Islam in our community. It's a little bit different how you get out and reach the people.
Yes.
And only someone who comes from that type of
Exactly.
beginning in that environment will understand how to connect with those people.
That's right. And that's very important. Connections
The
are very
language.
important. Language,
Like you said.
experience, and then relation to the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Quran. How does all this tie into each other? So, alhamdulillah, Imam Muhammad rahimahullah alayhi had done all of the legwork. All we had to do was take from the concepts, you know, and I used to even my growth in being a student of Imam Muhammad had to come from a place where I didn't understand. What is he saying? What does he do? And Allah grew me from that because I was patient. So as a result of me becoming a serious student of Imam Muhammad under the leadership of Imam Wazi Ali, introduced me to Imam Qasim Ahmed, who he took me in and he developed me further. So I had extra training under his leadership, even though I'm working with Wazir, who Wazir is a student of Imam Qasim.
Yes.
So I'm getting like I'm getting the full circle.
Right.
You know, at whenever I wanted it. I mean, I could pick up the phone and I could call
questions you had.
any questions I had. And then Imam Qasim got to the point where he would invite me to travel the country with him.
MashaAllah.
And to serve on the Islamic Learning Institute with him.
Now, how long did this mentorship of these individuals, which is how long did this mentorship last?
Even to today. Imam Wazir is
Still
still my teacher.
MashaAllah.
Imam Qasim Ahmed, rahimahullahi alayhi, he returned to Allah last year.
Ameen.
And this is the first year of Ramadan I experienced and because that is for the last 14 years. He's been somebody that at 3 o'clock in the morning, I know he studies at 3 o'clock. So I can call him at 3:15 and say, tell me about this verse here. I could call him and ask him about certain stuff, and we would just dialogue. Be like, hey, it's time for Fajr.
Yeah. SubhanAllah.
This was the kind of teacher that he was, always available. And he would bring me with him around the country, and he would show me how he wanted me or wished for me to develop leadership for this community. I want you to go out and develop the help that you're going to need to do this work. So all of this training, when I look at it now, I said, this was inevitable.
Okay.
Masjid New Africa was inevitable for you.
Yes.
Because a baby can only stay in the womb of his mother so long.
Now, was Masjid New Africa, was it something on the horizon?
No.
Was it something that you were looking for, or was it something that just kind of happened?
Absolutely not. It was nothing that we planned for.
Okay.
The only plan was there was an imam in an area that was underserved, that needed leadership.
Okay.
And Allah saw that. We couldn't have seen it.
Okay.
Allah saw it. So the phone call came from a brother who lived 60 miles from here, who saw this building that was 2.1 miles from my house. He called me and said, hey, I'm doing some work on this building, and the people, I think it'll be a nice little masjid for you all in this area. I know y'all drive 35 miles to Houston, but it's right by your house. I said, okay, well, I'll come take a look at it in a couple of days. And when I came to take a look at it, I saw it. I said, oh yeah, it has a lot of potential. He said they don't want but $900 a month.
Okay. Wow.
I said, okay, well, $900 a month. It's 9 brothers in this area that drives to Belford or to Mercy in Hillcroft.
Right.
We can
do something.
Yeah. So when I went to the brothers with the proposal and said, hey y'all, it's a building that's available. Perhaps we can set up a masjid here. I could say, and I could say, well, look, let's say how we can, how can we support this? How can we support this effort?
Right.
They say, well, look, why don't we all just commit to giving $200 a month? I say, okay, well, we need to elect an imam. The brothers literally started laughing. Like, brother, stop playing. Brother, come on, brother. You the imam. You our imam.
Right.
You're our original imam from this area.
Yes.
And we watched you develop under Imam Wazir's leadership for 13 years. Yeah. So now we have an opportunity to open up a masjid here. So what we did was we made a commitment to contribute a certain amount of money to pay for to support the masjid on a monthly basis.
Okay.
But Imam Wazir, my colleagues in Houston, say we have another idea. let's create a fundraising platform. Now, this is COVID that kicked in now. It's not
Yeah.
like we can go do a real fundraiser.
Absolutely.
And he said
Everything is virtual.
everything is virtual. So he said, let's create a fundraising platform for the masjid and let's just raise the money, which is where we're currently at now, to raise $15,000 to support the expenses of the masjid for the year.
Okay. I'm doing
Let's do that. That way that'll free you all up.
Absolutely.
And then, we'll work on
what comes after
what
that?
comes after that,
Yeah.
which is, accommodating the imam and
Yeah.
things of this nature. Because, I was working on a job that required me to be working in a refinery 7 days a week, 12 hours a day for contract. It may be a week, it may be a month.
Yes.
Sometimes I would be gone.
Yes.
So I knew I couldn't, that schedule was not going to,
It was going to be hard to accommodate both
there
schedules.
was no way I would be able to develop and cultivate this,
Yes.
doing that.
Right.
And I had to just step away from that.
So you just made the
I just-
decision to commit.
Commit. I said,
Allahu
well,
Akbar.
if something opens up and I can get to it, but I'm trusting Allah to provide for me.
Allahu Akbar.
And this
So
is something that we
Allah.
have to, this is a practice. We have to practice trusting Allah when we cannot see an out.
No.
So this is, hey, I am teaching all this stuff for years. Now I gotta be the one to respond to this, because this is a real significant decision I have to make.
It is.
This is how I take care of my family. This is my income.
Right.
And I'm saying I'm gonna walk away from that to be able to support this effort.
Allahu Akbar.
So this is how Masjid,
Barakallahu feek, Sheikh.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. So Masjid New Africa was a really organic, my coming into leadership was so organic, and this masjid was just as organic as that.
Yes.
It doesn't get any
Right.
it doesn't get any more organic than that transition.
MashaAllah. So now coming to current day. Now you, as far as what you're doing, I know that right now you're actually in school.
Yes.
About to complete your master's degree.
Yes.
In Islamic theology.
Islamic master's degree in divinity.
Divinity.
Yes,
Okay.
it's Islamic chaplain degree. They give you a master's degree in divinity, but my specialty would be in Islamic chaplaincy.
Okay.
Because we have underserved hospitals. We have underserved institutions without the presence of an Islamic chaplain, spiritual advisor.
Absolutely.
And we have to be able to accommodate these areas where we are deficient, our presence is deficient there, to be able to serve that aspect. Now, my degree as a chaplain doesn't warrant me to just be a chaplain to Muslims. Okay? A chaplain in an environmental setting like a hospital. In a prison, it'll be different. Because in a prison, I'll be assigned to the Islamic community.
Right.
But I want to be trained in the hospital environment. And I have no qualms with that, being that I was raised a Christian. So I know, and my family is Christian. So I know how to work within those different faith-based groups and still maintain my identity.
Absolutely.
So I'm looking forward to that challenge as well.
So now have you taken away a lot away from that from the program that you're currently
Absolutely.
in?
This program is phenomenal. This program was, again, Allah. I didn't want to accept the scholarship when it was appealed to me. The appeal came to me at first. I didn't accept this scholarship until a month before the semester started.
And why would you not accept a scholarship?
I'm too busy. I got this going on. I've got that going on. I got a family. I got a
couldn't accommodate or cut out the time to do proper
so I thought.
stuff.
But then I began to realize that this is the Muhammad Ali scholarship that they're offering me, a full ride scholarship at Bayan Islamic Graduate School. Why wouldn't you take this scholarship? This is the conversation that I had with myself. And when I saw what it was offering, I went through the coursework and saw what they were offering. I saw the opportunity for me to learn classical Islam. Classes that they were teaching were classes I would never have the opportunity to be exposed to in an academic setting.
Outside of that.
So I weighed my options, and the benefit outweighed the options. Then I had a lot of encouragement from my colleagues. They was like, do it. What
did your mentor, Imam Ali, Wazir Ali, what did he say?
I was about to accept a transitional program at Hartford Seminary,
Yes.
Right at the time this Bayon thing came about.
But
the transitional program at the Hartford Seminary would give you a certificate. This one was offering a master's degree that was recognized by prominent institutions. So, of course, they pushed me. No, you need to do this. You need to do this. Would be excellent. This would help the community. So I saw it as a benefit for me to help this community. And mashallah, The classes and the coursework and the instructors that I've been exposed to, phenomenal. And we never have the same instructors every semester. They always pulling them from the best universities around the country
to come in and
One of my
teach.
professors is in Qatar.
Wow.
He's stationed in Qatar, teaching counseling Muslim youth. And I've had professors from London. I had professors from Dartmouth, Georgetown.
Wow.
Every semester.
Mashallah.
Band staff.
So it's not like a cakewalk.
No.
Okay.
It's a full course. The material that you're given is graduate level material.
Mashallah.
The benefit that they made easier for us is that they recognize that we're all people that's either doing the work or we're not graduate students coming out of undergrad studies.
Right.
We're all working people with families. So they created a course where we could call a hybrid course, where we could go to the first 2 weeks of the semester. We go there, do all our classroom hours, which is 30 hours required for a master's program up front, and then we go home and everything else is online.
Mashallah.
So they made it accommodable for us.
Working people.
Mashallah.
Okay, Imam, now we're going to come to a close, but if there's anything that you would like to tell the audience out there, maybe about how to give and help support this new project of the New Africa Masjid, inshallah, please go ahead.
Yes, I really thank you all for the opportunity for me to be able to present on this platform. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continue to bless you all.
Ameen.
And with success on top of success.
Jazakallah.
Masjid New Africa is a masjid that's established in a county that's serving 350,000 people. Okay, we're one of 3 masjids. And our masjid, the vicinity of our masjid is they're almost 15 to 20 miles apart. In this particular community, we have programming that is designed to affect the moral transition of the situations, the problematic situations, and the disparity that's been existing in these communities for so long. With the presence of Masjid New Africa, what we have the opportunity to do, which hasn't been done, is to affect change in society in areas that have been left untouched and neglected for so long. Underserved. So we have a series of programs that we want to roll out. And the way that we're going to be able to do this is through community support. Community support can come in the form of monetary donations, which could help us to begin our feeding program, our counseling youth, behavior program for the youth, and also our mentorship program that we're rolling out. Alongside the other classes that we have, just recently we're learning that there's parenting classes that are needed in this community. There's people that need to be fed on a consistent basis. Communities that are deficient and deprived of so many things that we could help provide for. So we ask that you humbly support us in any way. It was a question asked, why are you all opening up a masjid during a pandemic?
Okay.
And my uncle's response to it was, he said, well, the earth is still open, and so is heaven.
Allahu Akbar.
So as long as the earth is here, we're trying to earn our place in the paradise by serving the best we can in this community. So we ask that you give, if you can give us, we have several ways to give. We have a Facebook page that has a promotional commercial there. It has a PayPal link, and our PayPal address is masjidnewafrica.com. You can type in that masjidnewafrica at gmail.com. You type in that, you can get our PayPal. You can also give to us through Cash App. It's $, Masjid New Africa. That's our Cash App. Our logo will pop up. It's a picture of the Quran with New Africa Masjid in red, black, and green colors. You'll see our logo. Okay. So those are ways that you can give. But you can also support us by just getting on our Facebook page, liking our page, following us. The khutbahs are uploaded to our YouTube page now. We do them live. We do the live khutbah every Friday, and we upload them to our YouTube page. So you can support us in any of those facets.
MashaAllah. Yeah. Okay. Well, Imam, I want to thank you for giving us this opportunity to sit down and really meet you. Alhamdulillah. And I hope, inshallah, that we can do this again.
Absolutely.
So, us at El Manara Islamic Learning Center, this is what we want to do. We want to be able to go out into the communities and connect the communities for the bigger, to look at the bigger thing, and especially people who have been behind those walls, and the people who are coming home. Because this is a greatly underserved community that we need to hit.
Absolutely.
And so underserved mentally, spiritually, and emotionally.
Yes.
Because as you said earlier when we were conversing, these people are carrying baggage
Yes.
that needs to be addressed.
Mm-hmm.
Things that are still creating challenges in their current situation, in their current life right now.
Absolutely.
So inshallah, this is what we at Al Manara Islamic Learning Center, this is what we want to do. And we want to be a part of people like your masjid,
yes,
and other masjids that are doing things of this nature. So inshallah, jazakallah khair again for this time. And we hope everybody has enjoyed this one-on-one with one of the most dynamic imams up and coming.
Thank you so much.
So until next time, please people go and check out Al Manara Islamic Learning Center. Check out our page on Facebook also. Like and follow us. And just stay tuned for more great in-depth interviews where we get to learn the new people on the block, what's happening in the Islamic community. Thank you so much. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الله نور السماوات والأرض مثل نوره كمشكاة فيها مصباح المصباح في زجاجة الزجاجة كأنها كوكب دري يوقد من شجرة مباركة زيتونة لا شرقية ولا غربية يكاد زيتها يضيء ولو لم تمسسه نار نور على نور يهدي الله لنوره من يشاء ويضرب الله الأمثال للناس والله بكل شيء عليم